all that great.
There's no reason to climb with wind. If it's not possible, well, it's not possible. It's the mountain who said that you can climb or not.
I finally got word from the monastery. The gods were not opposed to my quest.
Each of the climbers made the same courageous decision. They had to try again. They held a puja ceremony to cleanse their spirits. Then they put aside their grief and followed Ed back up through the icefall once more.
When we get up to the middle camp, the wind was still very strong up above. We start to think we'll have to give up.
When the other Sherpas said they were afraid, I told them what my father had taught me. A climber must always treat the mountain with respect and use caution in the face of danger.
I just wasn't ready emotionally to have Ed trying for the summit again. So I just summoned up my courage and told him to go for it. It was the hardest thing I've ever done.
We were running out of time. We decided to go higher so we'd be in position to go for the top, if the wind stopped. But first we had to ascend the Lhotse face, which would be an exhausting 2-day climb.
The Lhotse face is a steep wall of ice, 4,000 feet high. We use fixed ropes, but people die here all the same. They unclip, make a mistake, and fall. After rocketing downhill for as much as a mile, they then plunge into a bottomless crevasse.
Up here, we really start to feel the lack of oxygen. And that's the biggest danger on Everest. The less oxygen your brain gets, the harder it is to think straight. You believe your mind is sharp, but it's not.
Yeah, hi, Roger.
At high camp, we're already 3/4 of the way to the top. Finally, the wind on the summit had calmed down.
GPS all set up and it's collecting data.
At 26,000 feet, it was quite a struggle to set up the GPS receiver, and it worked.
Coming in, so I hope you're happy about that.
I did not tell Roger that we could see hundreds of rocks that were once at the bottom of the sea. We've got enough to carry without picking up rocks for Roger.
You should be able to see us from Kalapatar.
May 22nd. The team would try for the summit that night, while Sumio stayed at the high camp as the radio contact, despite her cracked ribs. Ed wondered if Paula had received the video he had sent down to base camp.
By the time you get this video, I'll be heading for the summit. If I have to turn around, I will. I'll be very careful.
At this altitude, your mind runs in slow motion. You can't sleep, can't eat. Your brain is starving for oxygen, your body is deteriorating, and your muscles are wasting away. That's why the final 3,000 feet is known as the death zone. I was feeling tense, because in a few hours I was going to set out on the climb of my life. It takes about 12 hours to get from high camp to the summit. You have to start around midnight so you can get to the top by noon. Ed was going to climb without oxygen, so he started at 11 that night, an hour before the rest of us.
At midnight, it was 30 below zero. Araceli, Jamling, and 5 Sherpas packed up their oxygen supplies and started for the summit, following Ed's trail.
In the night, with my goggles and oxygen mask, I felt like I was on the moon. The others were nearby, but we never spoke. I felt completely alone. All I heard was the sound of my own breathing through the oxygen mask.
High on Everest, there is nothing to breathe. There is only a third as much oxygen in each breath as there is at sea level. Most climbers need bottled oxygen up here, but not Ed.
You stagger along, every ounce of energy is sucked from your muscles. You just can't get enough air. This is what it must feel like to drown. The sun rose, but whenever I stopped to wait for the others, I got cold, so I had to move on. I climb without bottled oxygen because I like the challenge. It's just me and the mountain. It's as simple as that.
Hey, Paula, good news. I think I can see our team on the south summit, over.
The human body is not built to survive up here. It screams at you to turn around and go back.
It took all my strength and concentration just to put one foot in front of the other. I've never been so tired in my life. Sometimes I want to sit down in the snow and rest, but I told myself 10 more steps, and I keep going and going.
The wind begins to sound like drums in the monastery, but maybe that's just the blood pounding in my brain. As the pain gets worse, I feel that I'm closer to death than I've ever been without passing over to the other side.
Every half hour, I radioed Sumio. Have you heard from Ed? Have you heard from Ed?
I knew exactly where I'd find Rob lying frozen in the snow. When I got there, I sat down next to him and cried. I wanted to hear his friendly New Zealand accent one more time. But then the voice I heard was Paula's, the echo of what she had said on the radio.
I said, climb this mountain like you've never climbed it before. And he said he was very choked up, but he said he thought about that all the way to the top.
Just below the summit is the most difficult pitch of the whole climb. A wall of rock and ice known as the Hillary Step. When I got past that, I knew I was going to make it. I radioed Paula and calmly told her I'd made it. But without bottled oxygen, I got too cold to wait for Araceli and John Ling. I passed them on my way down.
Then Ed came down from the summit and gave us a small hug. He told us the summit was not far.
After 12 hours of climbing, I had to really force myself to concentrate. There's a drop-off of over a mile on either side of the ridge.
There were only 100 meters left, but they were the longest 100 meters I did in my life.
After 9 long weeks on the mountain, they made it. And Araceli Segarra became the first Spanish woman to reach the top of the world.
When I got to the top, I was tired. But then I realized that I've really done it. And I started to feel happy. I was sure I could see halfway around the world. I wondered if my friends were thinking about me. They had no idea I was standing on the top of the world. I wanted to shout to them, "I'm okay, I made it." Even with cold hands, I took pictures of Jamling. He had worked hard to get here. I was so happy for him.
I've been dreaming of this moment since I was a boy. To finally stand on the summit, my heart just overflowed. My tears froze to my cheeks. I left a picture of my late mother, my late father, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and also a little toy I got from my 10-month-old daughter, and a prayer flag as an offering for Chomolungma, the mother goddess of the world.
When we started down, we were careful, no mistakes, but we hurried to see our friends at base camp. It's way down there, below the clouds.
As the team began the two-day descent to base camp, they had time to reflect. They had never expected to be swept up in a disaster that would touch the whole world. Yet even in the face of extraordinary hardship, they had always acted with courage and grace.
I've never been so glad to see someone in my life.
We did it.
High on Everest, Roger's GPS was putting out data that one day may give geologists more insight into earthquakes. And Jamling's prayer flag fluttered in the wind at the top of the world and sent a different kind of message.
Looking back, I sometimes wonder how I found the strength to get to the top of Everest. I know now that my